All right, it says we're
Oh,
live.
live. Yep, I see it there. All right.
All right, cool beans.
So you guys will be able to see me a little better, I guess.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing the same thing actually. Turning on.
No, we see. I see you clearly. You're good.
Okay, good.
I think Joshua has the best lighting. He's probably the better looking of at least me anyway. Since you're the woman, you'll always win. So that's good. Okay, now that we're live, it's switching to whomever is talking. I think so. I think that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
All right, great. Um, So I know that we were supposed to try and come with some ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. I looked at the graphic last night from the week one stuff. It said that we needed to look at about Ashford students and stuff like that. And I mean, it was really just to me, it looked like a. Did you guys look at it? A pie chart, the demographic, who our audience was going to be, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's mainly a pie chart of the school, right? Of like
Right.
the different demographics of Ashford, which I guess is what, well, I'm not guessing, but that's going to be our audience because it's Ashford University, like magazine or whatever, newspaper.
Yeah.
Right.
So I did look at it. What did you gather from it, Cliff?
I gathered that, I mean, it really just gave us the A's. There's a lot of younger students, and then as it went and, teetered down, and I noticed a decline not only in the graduation or the number of diplomas handed out, but also in the age. The older it got, the fewer people there were.
Mm. Yeah, I didn't even take that from it. I just saw that it was like a lot of younger, you know, more millennials than
Mm.
most. So, which it kind of surprises me because Ashford's an online university. I would think that it would gear more towards people that are working or like families or, wives and
Yeah.
husbands that work a full time job. So,
So you're considering some things that I considered also. And whether we avoid it or not, it's going to come up, and I think that socioeconomics has a lot to do with it. I noticed that a lot of students that are in our classes are both young and military, you know
yeah,
or single or housewives to a degree. That those are the biggest dynamics. I'm a non-traditional student because I'm 51 years old. I don't mind. I earned this, um, and so I'm finishing up a degree. So I know that it's not the norm. Most people go to college, to get their education when they're 18, 17, 18 years old. So that doesn't surprise me. Some people go back to school after they've had, their children, just depending on, like you said, Sarah, you have, younger children. You're doing the wise thing, in my opinion, to get it now so that by the time that they're older, you've already gotten, college out of the way.
yeah.
So that's what I noticed about that.
I've been going to school since, oh my God, forever, I feel like. But I, I I'm not a stay-at-home mom anymore, but I was for a long time, and I am getting my degree now, but I work in the field already. I work in communications, so
Okay.
it's very helpful in a way because there's a lot of stuff that I brought to the table as far as ethics and things like that. But then there's things that you learn in the field that you haven't, that a lot of people don't normally get. So I think I have a little bit of an advantage, but I think that as far as like, I'm military, my husband's military, he's
Mm.
deployed right now. So I think that the demographic of being, having a lot of military for Ashford it's true because my husband's the one that actually told me about the school when he was going. So
Cool.
yeah.
What
So
about you, Joshua? You can't sit silently and listen to me banter.
Yeah. Really, I noticed some similar things about the demographics, but I was looking more into like topics to write a story about for the week. And one thing I was looking at is maybe something about how at least some schools, or maybe nationally, schools switching to all year schooling, year-round schooling. And I was looking at it, that would be a good topic to address for the week, but I'm not too sure.
Well, I mean, education-wise, I mean, you could definitely write about that. That's a great story to move forward with, especially because of the fact that our demographic is online students that go to school year-round. What happened to Cliff? He is gone.
That's strange. There he is.
We lost him.
My bad. I just went, where are they?
Awesome. Well,
I tried to send a message to you guys. Okay, so chat wasn't working for me initially either. Can you guys see the message? Yeah, that's the link to just while we're discussing it. And I think I missed something very important. Joshua, you were saying that you were researching more stories than the demographic of the audience that we'll be writing to, which I think we're obviously inevitably going to get to, right, guys?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I did today. I researched a bunch of different stories that are headline news, you know, not like not front page news, but like just things that happened in the last few days that kind of did go with our demographic.
Oh, okay.
So I did a lot of research today on just those things. The aspect of this article is the great thing is it's only one page, which is awesome. But the thing is that we have to conduct an interview that has to go along with the topic. So if she said in the instructions that if you don't have the ability to reach someone in that industry or market or something having to do with that story, then it might not be a good idea to write about it because you won't have an interview to reference and source.
That makes sense.
I catered my research to my ability to be able to reach out to people in my city or people in the industries that I was researching, as well as like my military connections and things like that. So that's where I went with my research.
So help. I looked last night and maybe I was a little brain foggy, but where the heck are the instructions she sent us? Like, I remember seeing them.
Here, I will screen share it. Give me a second to get to it.
I looked for them, but I could not find them. I went through every module. Well, not every module, but the first week's module.
Yeah, so it is under, let me screen share right now so I can show you where it's at instead of just going to it. Ooh, that's weird.
That was nice. Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, Joshua, she's learning some stuff now, bro. We're in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm like the owner of my company. I work for a 6-station broadcast group, and the owner of my company is in town, and he usually lives in Austin, and he is in like this glass office right next to my cubicle, and he's a gentleman, and he always yells at me and has me come and fix his computer all the time.
Millennials, get in here! I need you.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny, but all right. So you see this week too?
Yep.
Okay. So that on the front page, and then I just went to budget meeting.
Okay.
And under budget meeting, it had like this little video, and then it kind of gave a brief description of what we needed to talk about.
That's what I saw. Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So, but then I went back
To the actual publication page?
I went back to the actual publication page, and that's this one right here, and that gives the actual very, very, very detailed information on compare two opposing opinions and the topic, and or include an interview to support the story.
Sweet.
So
what I am going to do is I am going to, for my posterity, because it'll help me because I'm an old man, I'm going to copy the stuff and this is how I start my stuff when I start to write and stuff like that. I'll get all of the stuff that she puts, or the instructor will put in their weekly, requirements, and I'll just save them to my desktop somewhere, and that way I don't have to look for them. So I appreciate you sharing that, because now I'm going to do just that.
Yeah, that's where I found that. So I honestly think that, like, the way that I researched, sorry, Josh, I think I cut you off. I'm really sorry. The way that I researched my stories was it something that pertained to my interests, because our demographic is pretty much, like, somewhat, I fit the demographic, you fit the demographic, so if it's something of interest to a millennial or a stay-at-home mom or military personnel, or even, older generations, I think that we really have a broad mix of what we can write about. But like Josh and I were talking yesterday, I don't know if this is something that you agree with, which if it isn't, just say so. But I would love for our stories to not intertwine in so much, but just be complementary to each other, so that our three news stories kind of go well together, but we're not just talking about like apples and oranges.
Right. Where I don't know, when I listened to the broadcast yesterday, what we had was decided if we're doing like one story, or if we're all doing three different stories, you know what I'm saying? And then if we have a page layout where there's, this story, that story, and that story, or just one story where you got an interview, and I got an interview.
Right. Josh, do you want to answer him?
Yeah, from the communication I've had with our professor and everything I see in the assignment guidelines, it sounds like we each have to have a separate story or separate topic, so we're not all working on the same topic or story, but we have to, like, it would help to have similar topics like we were discussing, so everything flows together in a way, but we just have to put each of our separate stories into the one newspaper. It's one publication, but we've each got a different topic and different story to cover.
Cool. Okay.
So the one thing that we had mentioned yesterday that we were talking about was how we were kind of confused with how to do the editing, and I went back and reread it, because that's something that we have to do. We have to post by Saturday night into Google Docs, and then each one of us has to edit someone else's. So I would edit maybe Josh's this week, and you would edit mine. And that's how each person, and then vice versa. So we all would have to edit each other's, but only one. We don't have to edit everyone's. So that's something that I read up on today too, which we were questioning yesterday.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and in addition to that, we have to answer a list of 10 questions along with our editing of somebody's story.
Right.
Is that in the GDoc?
It's under, like, when you're going through and you're reading like all the different instructions that she gives us, it's like it's like a link, and it'll say PDF for editing purposes or something, and then you click on that and the link will pull up. It will download like a actual PDF that you can work on.
I see one right now. Okay, cool.
So yeah, so that's one thing I was telling Josh yesterday, is that I'm really bad with deadlines, and that's something I've been working on. And so this class is going to be, I've like made it my goal that I'm going to be, other than last week with my discussion boards, I was a little late, but this week and going forward, I'm going to make sure that I have my discussion boards done on time, and I have my paper done, my article done to you guys by Saturday night. Like, that's not going to be an issue. So I just want to let you know that that's not going to be a problem. But if it is something that, say something does happen, regardless of whether it's me or someone else, I think that we need to just continue to turn in it, even because she wrote in there that it's all individual work. We're working as a group, but we're getting graded individually on our aspect to finish and complete the task. So I think that if one of us is extremely late and we can't get a hold of that person, or something like that, I just think that we should go ahead and turn it in on Monday, and regardless of whether they're participating or not.
Yeah, and I also believe that and I guess we probably could have started with this. Hi, I'm Clifton. I worked in television for about 12 years as a sportscaster, on-air sportscaster and anchor. So I'm familiar with deadlines. I've worked in the industry for a while. And then I did some print stuff and I did some radio stuff, but deadlines are important. So I get what she's saying. But one of the aspects, and I'm glad you brought this up, Sarah, is teamwork. So, I know how to, I used to cover for some people. Some things can't be helped. If, you have some extenuating circumstances, what I'll do is I'll send my stuff to you guys, and I'll use myself as an example to say, hey, here's what I have so far. But, I got deployed to Iraq, God forbid. But here's what I had so far, and blah, 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 and vice versa. So we can have some idea of what was going to be submitted. And I don't mind covering, whatever you guys may have going, get your proof or get your, evaluation, because we're going to be editing each other's stuff anyway. So it's kind of like doing the discussion board that we post and saying, like, hey, you put an S where it didn't belong. So kind of consider doing this the next time. And, thank you for your viewpoint and blah, blah, blah. One thing you may also want to consider is XYZ. But we're doing it internally as a team, so that we still come out, because at the end of the day, we're a team doing individual stuff, but we want to all be successful as a team as well.
Yeah.
I agree.
So it's not that we're doing somebody else's work by any means, but certainly as a team, sometimes stuff just happens, My kids are grown now, but I know, things can happen a lot of times with kids where you just got to be gone. You got to just get gone. So that's just one example. God forbid anything, happens where we can't make our deadlines. But, just in case we do, we got each other's backs.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm looking the roles and that kind of thing. So it looks like you kind of took the bull by the horns, Sarah. So I guess we can consider, when we are submitting our stuff, you be the editor in chief, and Joshua, by all means, correct me if I'm wrong, if you or anything, you guys. But we'll be the writers, and then we're all editors, if I'm reading this information right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. Chief,
One thing I wanted to see is if one of you wanted to be the one that put it in the AU format.
All right. The editor-in-chief will be responsible for downloading the AU Chronicle template from dot sharing and creating access to for all members. Then the writers. I'm just looking at responsibilities. Each news team member will edit a section of the publication for another news team member and return the file to the GDoc space for. And I think I remember joining the daggone thing. I think we're already in there, right? Or no? So I'm gonna show you. I'm in the roles part right now.
Mm-hmm.
And boom. I know it looks like a lot, but it breaks it down bullet point. And what I just did was I read the editor's portion. Do you see the editor's portion in the
They went away.
In the chat?
I see it.
Oh. I'm not even on the chat thing. Okay, I see it. Yeah, so I mean, I can do it this week, but do you guys, I know that what I would like to do, if you guys agree, is I'd like to have each one of us be able to take that role because we're going to be working together for 3 weeks. So, I mean, I don't mind broadcasting the video every week because I know how to do it and it's easy. But I think that, like, I think 1 week, one person should be the person that downloads the template and puts it all in. The next week, someone else should. And the next week, the last person, because that gives us all the ability to be able to know what we're doing and, you know, be able to help each other out, but learn as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
and the first week,
doing it this week.
We could do it together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's, like, tonight, you know, while we're here, you know, we could do it together. Another thing also is, just out of respect of people's time, we probably want to set some kind of time constraints so that we don't go, you know, 2 or 3 hours into, you know, a session and you look up and you're going, oh my gosh, you know, and now it's late, you know, with certain things. So, you know, I work in corporate America. The last thing you want to do is go to a meeting. So I don't know, how long do you guys think these things should last? You know, an hour?
Yes, I actually had seen where somewhere, I think it was in the budget meeting guidelines, the professor had mentioned that our meetings shouldn't go over 1 hour.
Yeah, because people start losing focus and attention and that kind of thing after a while. So, yeah. Okay, I see the editing checklist and all of that stuff. So we did get started a little bit late because of the technical stuff. So, you know, let's, as we say, let's get busy and see what we can get done tonight. As far as helping Sarah with the GDocs, we can all learn this together. And then the stories that we, you know, want to come up with. I don't necessarily have story ideas yet. I really don't, but that won't be a problem.
Okay. Well, I mean, Josh and I could tell you our story ideas and then decide what we want to do and all as a group. And then you kind of fit into that and then add that to the discussion boards because that gives us something to talk about in our budget meeting discussion board because we have to have that constant communication in there so that we get credit for that.
Cool. That makes sense. Absolutely. Cool beans.
All right, you first, Josh.
Okay. I was looking at the education, the topic that I mentioned before about the all-year schooling. I was wondering if that sounded like it fit the demographics of our audience and that sounded like a good way to go. Another topic I was looking at before that was something geared more toward the local area of San Diego. And I was looking at, I was trying to determine like what genre it would fit under, more of either technology or politics. But I was looking at the building of the wall down along the Mexican coast, but I don't think that has more of an impact on the demographics of our audience, except that it has a relation to politics. But I was thinking that education topic fit more because a lot of people that may be going to Ashford University may have kids and have their own assignments to deal with and have their kids schooling, and with having all year schooling that may change things during summer when there would usually be breaks and sporting events and planning things like for the mornings and after school activities, babysitters for younger kids and different things. So I was really looking at all the aspects of that topic, and that sounded like something good to address and cover in a story for this week.
Right.
Or that may be too broad or too narrow of a topic. I'm thinking it may be just perfect or maybe too broad of a topic. Maybe there's a way to narrow that to a specific part of the audience, maybe, or a specific aspect of the pros and cons of that, or where I'll really go with that topic.
Where is it school age children going to school all year round? And
Yes.
is it the same amount of time, 6 hours a day?
That's what I'm thinking. From everything I've seen and heard about that at this point, it sounds like it's the same hours, just instead of having a summer, there's more time that school is in session during the year. And actually, here local in my community here in Indiana, the schools here have actually switched to where they have 2-week breaks for spring break and fall break, and where there's usually school breaks at maybe a few days or a week. They're all, I think, 2 weeks now, and the summer this year, where it's usually more of like 10 weeks, school didn't get out until almost the beginning of June. I think it was in the last few days of May, and they're actually starting back here, supposed to be tomorrow, where
Wow.
that would usually be more around mid-August.
Okay. I think it's a very controversial topic because of the fact that, like, so on one hand you have people that think that children are in school too long as it is. They get too much homework. They come home with a lot of homework, and they're like overwhelmed for little kids. You know, I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, so I can see that side of it. But then I can also see I pay so much in summer childcare. It is absolutely ridiculous. Like right now I'm working from home. Thank God I work for a family-owned company and I'm able to do that. But I work from home in the summer because I don't have childcare and I can't afford it. You know, it's $250 a kid, which is ridiculous. You know, in the city I live in, Virginia Beach, it is expensive. So I can see, you know, both sides of this story. And I think that you could really come with some really good sources. And I think the fact that you have in Indiana, they switched it up to where they're actually almost doing that. You would be able to get a good interview with someone in that area, like a parent or, you know, a teacher or something along those lines, to where you can actually get a good source for an interview. So I think that probably would be a pretty well-rounded story.
Okay. Do you think that maybe a good way to go with that would be doing 2 interviews, maybe a parent that may have young children that need babysitting or something to that nature, and maybe somebody that's in the education with more knowledge in that, more of like a superintendent or a school teacher or something, that may add the 2 separate views or different sides of that debate?
I mean, it's first off, I'd see what you could get and then take whatever you can get and run with it. But then if you can get more than one interview, then maybe doing two conflicting opinions might be a good way to be well-rounded and unbiased.
Okay, because I actually emailed our professor just a bit ago with a few more questions asking her, like, what all is a source that would be acceptable for our stories. Like, in addition to an interview, if I needed an interview on each side, or in addition to an interview, what other types of sources would be credible, like if they had to come from the Ashford Library or a specific genre, like a person that works in education for this sort of topic, or like what types of sources we were allowed to use to get the best information.
Well, that's something, once she emails you back, I would just maybe put that in the discussion board as well, so that we can know that information as well. So.
Okay, because that would be really great to have more information on, like if we need scholarly sources, or if it can be anything off the internet, or that another station's reported, or exactly where all to go with sources.
Yeah, well, I think that with sources, as far as this is my assumption, so I'm not sure, but I would assume that these actual articles that we're writing, I don't think that they have to be scholarly resources unless we're quoting specific survey numbers, 91%, 55%, that kind of stuff. It would be the only, I would assume she wouldn't have us do scholarly sources on these. Maybe our big paper at the end, yes, but not these. I'm assuming that, so I'm not sure. So when she answers you, please let us know.
Okay.
May I?
Yes.
Just to give some insight. I guess there's a delicate balance. You can never interview enough people, but in a publication this size, you don't want to go, and I quote, overboard, because you want to get the meat of what's being done. You can interview as many people or sources that you can. So let's say if you went to the local school district office, right? Pretty much everybody's going to be there. The superintendent, maybe a board of directors, educators, paralegals, and stuff like that. Spend a couple of minutes talking to each, or if you got them all in one room, you hit the jackpot, with what you're trying to get. And remember, it's 1 week and one story, right? Because what you're going to end up is with a lot of information that you may not be able to incorporate in the story. And that, as a writer, that used to be very frustrating to me, because it's like, man, I really wanted that point, or really wanted to input that point, and you're sitting there. Now, you could also get enough information to run 2 or 3 pieces out of it. And you've gotten enough to go forward with for the next 3 publications or so. You can always change the headline. You can always say follow up a part 2 or something like that, just because you have enough information. You know what I'm saying? And when I used to write my stories, that's how I always looked at it. Do I have enough to get a big story out of it and a follow up? But what you don't want to do is lose your audience, right?
Yeah.
So by week 2, you can reiterate what you said in week 1, but then week 2, what are you giving me new? And is there enough for week 3? And is my audience going to stay with me? I can only tell you the dog crossed the road, so many times before I go, okay, I know the dog crossed the road. And, as just like us, you may lose your audience. So go for it. I would say you can't go wrong using not only Ashford resources, but because that's what I plan to do. You guys gotten some ideas that I plan to use. And another thing that I would say to us is, I know we have a target audience. The local stuff may or may not be as impactful because we're in different parts of the country. But by the same token, all of our students are in different parts of the country. So we're not necessarily limited to what we have to write about. For instance, one of the ideas that I came up with listening to you guys was the arts. So the President White House is, proposing cutting funding for the arts and stuff like that. I used to, be a person that, benefited from the arts, like playing cello and stuff like that. My parents couldn't afford, for me to buy a cello. So the school had it and they offered me lessons to play. And that's how I learned, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's a national thing, although it's impacting us, on a local level. And then there are stories like that. And then sometimes, like I love light stories. I like positive stories. I like entertaining stories. It could be a local story, something like, a kid that used to make bad grades is now, president of the local high school or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's going to impact us as students and saying, hey, this is, a positive feature. So don't limit. I don't think we can limit our thoughts. So don't think, just because it's Ashford University and we see that demographic, that it's just got to be here and tunneled. We've got a lot to work with. And that, I think, is really the challenge of getting our stories out there.
Yeah, that's one big concern I had, was if the story itself and the sources contributing to the story needed to be geared toward Ashford University specifically and the San Diego or California area, or national. Like if I needed to interview a source in some way that was from a school in that area, or if it could be here in my local area or anywhere, maybe that would be a way to go. Interview a source from here since they've made that change, and interview maybe a source in a school that is still on more of the old timing or scheduling that hasn't changed to that. I just thought of that. Maybe that's the way to address that with both sides. But that was one of my bigger concerns, is if I needed to gear everything toward that local area, or if it could be my area or anywhere in the country associated with the topic.
So what I was thinking just now is, we have the bullet points here, and it says that we can do local news catered out of San Diego, California, or California. Yeah. And we have education. So why limit yourself to local news and just say, put it under education and do it broadly and make it, so that you can interview whoever you want. And then you won't be limited to any type of one specific thing.
Yeah, just what kind of stuck me there is how we had to look at the demographics and the audience. I was wondering, like, how we have to gear it to the specific audience, if it had to deal with something for a certain area, if it could be anywhere in the country. That's just where I kind of got stuck with that.
I honestly feel as if it's something, if you write something you think that you would read, you're catering to our audience.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Because you're an Ashford University student.
That's a great, I'm sorry, that was like brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking what you're saying, Sarah, like Ashford University is based in San Diego, but I live in Atlanta. She lives in Virginia. You're in Indiana. There's somebody in there from Florida in another, you know what I'm saying? So, we're not limited in our thinking, and I hate to even use the word limited, but in our subject matter, but that's not limited because it goes education, national news, finance, international news, health and medicine, and all of that stuff really impacts us. So, I know that because we're non-traditional students, We may not be able to get out and put a microphone or a recorder or make a phone call to do an interview, which is, just as easy nowadays. And a lot of the quotes that we use or get, they're going to have to come from the stories that we research.
Yeah.
And input. And somebody told me in one of these classes a couple of times, said, don't make it harder than it has to be.
Yeah.
And, keep it simplified and you get a better product. And up to this point, so Sarah, you said you've been in school for a while. I've had classes with you, Joshua. So I know you know the deal. We know that those classes were leading up to what we're culminating now.
Mm-hmm.
So pull a story or two or three or four, from the internet, grab some sources from there, give them direct attribution, grab some pictures or whatever, and we just go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so you want to hear my ideas?
No.
Yes.
Are you?
I'd love to hear them.
Josh, are you set on this is what you're going to write about?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So now this is another thing. I did not research any front page news. So I don't know, Clifton, you might be
No, that's smart. I think that's smart though. I like that because you want your paper to grab somebody's attention. So really the headline is going to be the big deal. They're like, oh my God, I didn't know this. And it made front page news. That's how we're looking at it.
So I wanted to go with, there is a little bit of I don't know if you guys are going to like my idea, but.
Oh, stop. We'll love it.
I am a huge advocate for CBD oil, which is medical marijuana.
Okay.
I have extreme anxiety and I get migraines probably, 4 times a week to the point where I am completely incapacitated. I can't move. And I have been a huge advocate for CBD oil and any type of medical marijuana, and I've done a lot of papers on them, and I've done a lot of research, and that I really wanted to go something local for myself because of the fact that I'd like to be able to get a good interview. So Virginia, the Commonwealth here in Virginia, is probably going to, a lot of people say it's going to be the last state in all 50 states to actually pass medical marijuana bill. And I've been, on my phone, I have like certain things that pop up. And this morning I went into work for a couple hours and I was talking to my boss and it popped up that a new study came out from the Joint Legislation Audit and Review Commission, which is kind of the study group that puts together polls and stuff like that, and for really like, not like Trump stuff, but like things that are actually like, like Obamacare and things like that. So they came out with this new study that they polled a bunch of people, and I don't have like the specifics yet. I have to get that, but that Virginia is probably closer to legalizing medical marijuana because of the fact that like the research and stuff that backs it, but it's the fact that now that it lies in the people's hands in voting. And it was actually on the bill this past year and it got voted down. So I would like to come at this story from like a backwards angle, like somewhat more like more information on what it takes to legalize marijuana for medical use in certain states, and what type of vote it needs to get, and then maybe interview a few people and kind of poll a few people, not just interview, but poll a few people and see if they would actually vote for something like that, because I know that our demographic and our audience is millennials and people that live non-traditional lifestyles, and we're not going to school traditionally. So I think that I would like to be able to shine more light on not the health benefits or anything like that, but the just what it takes to legalize to get a medical marijuana bill passed in a state. That's where I want to come from it. Because a lot of people don't understand that. They don't understand the politics behind it. So I want to bring just a bunch of information, a bunch of statistics, and exactly what it takes to pass a bill such as that type of bill, instead of coming at it like, is this good for you? Do you agree with it? That type of thing. I don't want to get into that, because everyone's got their opinion about it. You know, just because I agree with it doesn't mean the next person does. So I just like to see, like, you know, do some research on how it gets passed. You know, how many votes does it need? What kind of traction does it have to have beforehand? You know, those type of things.
I got an interesting twist for you that may even give you a two-piece, as they say, for your story. You know, you look at professional athletes, NBA, NFL, baseball, Major League Baseball, and one of the things that those guys, athletes, even soccer players, have in common, male and female, is that, let's say they live in Colorado and they play for the Colorado franchises. Well, marijuana is legal in Colorado. Marijuana is legal also in California, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But can you have marijuana on you or use it outside of those two states? Even though you may play for LA or Colorado, you travel to Baltimore, you travel to Washington, you travel to New York, you travel to California, Carolina or Florida, and then they say, oh, illegal drug use, or, you know, you can't do this. So the law is actually, in my opinion, you know, colliding now with these professional entities. You know, some companies allow legal use of marijuana, you know, for their employees, you know, to be able to use it because of medical reasons. It's totally warranted, you know, so they can come into work with those things and have them. And I think you can have to have a permit or something like that. But is it discriminatory to say that professional athletes can't do it? You know what I'm saying? They travel for their jobs and they're going to different states and stuff like that, but you can't get on the plane with it. You can't use it if you're performing on a professional team. So
well,
I'm just giving you a little twist.
Military as well.
Right. Who fight for the rights of people to have those things. Right.
Yeah, regardless of whether or not you have PTSD, anxiety, any type of mental, you know, I don't want to say illness, because they're not all illnesses, but
I know what you mean.
Mental issue in any way, shape, or form, no matter how severe or how you know, complicated or whatever that may be. There's a lot of, you know, the military, regardless of whether all 50 states, you know, if there's one, all 49, say all 49 pass it, there's one state that hasn't passed legal marijuana, they will not allow their, you know, their military members to use, you know, medical marijuana for their benefits. And that's something that is, I've done a lot of research on this. Because I live in the state of Virginia. I'm actually moving to Florida. I am the most excited person you will ever meet to be moving to the hottest state in the country, because
Florida's not. Texas is. Trust me. You're going to the good place. You're going to be fine.
I was born and raised in Florida, but they have in the last 2 years passed medical marijuana use, and it is hugely beneficial. In all aspects of it. There are things that I don't agree with as far as recreational use, but I do agree with CBD oil, which is totally different than anything that has THC in it. So it's definitely it's been something that I've been very passionate about, and I was thinking that that would be something that I could write about. It would be beneficial. But the problem is that now we have education and we have health and medicine. Technically, we're going to call it health and medicine.
That's exactly what it is. And what I'm doing, guys, I'm not ignoring you. I'm actually writing out what we're talking about right now. Not in great detail, because I don't want to give our stories away. But so we'll have like a summary so that by the time we finish, we can just post it. You know?
It says that we need to post notes. So
okay.
I think that's great. I've been writing a little bit just in case, but I'm glad that you're doing that. So we can
do addendums. We can certainly do addendums.
Yeah. So I definitely need what is required is a front page news article. So I know that you don't know exactly what you want to do yet, Cliff, but
girl, I got some ideas. Trust me.
Okay. If it could run along the lines of something front page news, that would be great. But if it doesn't, then I can change what I want to write about, and I can write about something different, and so that we do have the front page news aspect.
Well, here's the thing I consider. Once we all get our stories, now you have the final, say about what is the front page or headline. As they say, we got one page for our publication, so it's technically we're all front page news. But the first story or lead story, it's ultimately your decision. But as a team, because that is going to change. You're the editor this week. He's the editor next week. I'm the editor the week after. We can make the decisions together, which is typically what my editors used to do with us. We'd have what we call our newsroom meetings just before we went on the air at our 5 o'clock cut-ins and determine what was the most important. Then we'd have another meeting right at 6 to see what our day was going to be like and what was going to be the lead or priority. If anything happened, like, oh my gosh, earth-shattering news that would supersede that story that we had in place, all it is that story just got bumped down. You know what I'm saying? One notch. So I don't think we could go wrong with whatever our lead is, but we can certainly talk about it. And it's, upon the editor-in-chief to make the final decision. You know what I mean? I like your story. I like Josh's idea. Because we have technology, politics, international news. You won't probably get finance out of me.
I literally have like all these different notes right here, and then I have finance, stock market ?
Unless something earth-shattering. Well, I can tell you this. There's a big story brewing in help me out. Hugo Chavez. The nation with all the oil.
Afghanistan, Iran.
No,
Google it. Syria. Saudi Arabia.
No. This is a Middle American country. Let's see.
Totally.
Venezuela.
Oh.
And so they're having there's a political uprising in Venezuela. Well, Venezuela is a huge supplier of oil, not only to the United States, but to other huge parts of the world. And because of this uprising, they've stopped exporting this week. So there's your finance, because if we're getting a lot of our oil here, all they need in our political system is one excuse to raise gas prices back up. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's front page news, my friend.
Could be. I have a couple of stories. My biggest one because I used to teach school. I taught middle school English and speech, and the cutting of the arts just kind of hit home to me. And there are a lot of people that will be impacted by that. And I think that when we start to erode the fundamentals of what we get in education, like the arts, learning how to play music and be in the band, and then that goes into a lot of times they cut the athletic programs in some of these schools, and the first ones to get hit are the schools in the in the inner city, where these kids don't have any effing thing to do. And then the crime rates go up, and then you've got more people incarcerated potentially, and people trying to struggle to find a way out. The socioeconomic impact of just cutting the arts, giving the kids something else to do, has now influenced our nation, which is what I see. When we started cutting funding for education about 20 years ago, under the Bush that sat in the classroom when the planes crashed. I forget. I don't know George W. or the George. Okay, yeah, the second one. When they cut funding for education, now you're seeing it come to fruition. How now we got people that don't know what the heck they're talking about up in the White House or in some other places. And I don't want to rub any political feathers wrong, but education is a direct impact of what we have running our country now and in our schools. And if you close schools, if you close hospitals, and even healthcare, that thing could go so far away. How can you say, united we stand, divided we fall, but you don't want to help somebody out of a gutter or somebody that's living under a bridge? They have to pay for medical costs or they can die. And people have jobs now and they still cannot literally afford healthcare. You got a job, but you still can't afford healthcare. So some of those things I think impact us directly. I promise you, I will have either the arts thing, something of international news, like I mentioned to you guys about the uprising in Venezuela. I probably won't have real life Venezuelan interviews. However, I do have two friends from Venezuela that I may be able to catch up with. And then national news. So I'll have a topic for you guys. But what I put down right now is the arts and public school.
Okay. Well, I will write up a little thing about, in the next day, tomorrow, I will take the morning and stuff and try to see how my story might be able to be laid out. We see if it's even possible to be able to get that type of information and put it in where it's something interesting to read. If not, I have a few other ideas, like where is it? There was like a really bad mosque blast in Afghanistan today. North Korea has. No, my husband is in the EU. He's with SEAL Team 10, but he is training locals how to disarm, or be able to notify, see the ability of, see bombs and stuff, and like IEDs. He's not in any type of actual combat area, so we're very lucky with that.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. I was thinking for front page news plus, / politics, is that North Korea, Mr. Jerk over there, he says that all of the United States is in his missile test, shows that all of the United States is in range. I don't honestly believe that, because they've tried so many times and just doesn't ever work. But Trump has come out and said that war with North Korea is, closer than we think, and that it's definitely a possibility and something he's keeping his eye on. So that could be maybe front page news. So if my story doesn't work out, then maybe I might go that route, because I've written so many political things before. So, I don't mind writing about that. I also had maybe might give you an idea, Cliff, but I read a study from Henley Business School today that 70% of workers say that the money that their companies spend on improving technology does not improve productivity, and they would like 70% of employees would rather have kept the technology the way it was and them put the money that they're spending into technology into
the
their employees.
Yes.
So you being in
office all the time.
I make very little for where I live. I work in, I am an event. I work in all of broadcast. I write commercials daily. I do everything. I wear multiple hats, but I am an event coordinator. I put on a $150,000 car show and a $175,000 fishing tournament every year by myself. And I coordinate everything. I get free giveaways. I coordinate sponsors. Literally the whole entire thing is completely put on by me. I talk to the car guys. I go out there. I get my feet wet. And I make very little money. And I'm part-time. Now I'm almost full-time, but some weeks I'm part-time. I'm not on salary, and I work my butt off for what I get, and I don't get very much.
Right.
So I completely 100% agree with this study that's where we're losing a line of where do you put the money back into your employees? Look at Google. You can go and nap. And during your day, you get a 45-minute nap time. Let's all take some.
He's like, yeah, nap.
I'm sorry. You want me to talk to this person for this meeting? Oh, I'm sorry. It's my nap time.
My nap time. Get out of here. Close the door.
So I definitely can see where that is something that they would, a study that's very reputable to be able to use. So there's different ideas there, and maybe we might get off this call and one of us will be like, I really thought that was a good idea, or I really thought that was a good idea, and we can just put that in the discussion board so we're having communication back and forth, showing her that we're discussing.
Yeah.
Josh. Do you go by, is it okay or Joshua?
What did you say?
Do you prefer Joshua or do you prefer Josh?
I'm having some bad echoing problems right now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Do you prefer Joshua or do you prefer Josh?
Josh.
Okay, good, because I didn't want to insult you. Some people don't call me Rebecca, call me Becky, so I don't want to, do that. I've written down what I've done, guys, is I kept your ideas on paper, Sarah. I put down a couple of the ones that I had also, because if we do that now, then we know what our next couple of stories are going to be already. We can start on those if we want to. And if anything changes in the meantime while we're doing them, then we can just do another story or research another story. But I wanted to get Josh's input. I feel like I've dominated the conversation, and I apologize and not giving you ample time to speak. But I've got yours down as public school education. And I wanted to be a little more direct about what it may be about. And then if you have any other ideas, we could certainly, I could write those down. We'll have these preserved, and then, we'll be able to go back and go, yeah, that's what I want to write about, even though we might not, your story, Sarah, may be good for the marijuana thing, may be good, right now. And then by the time we get ready to submit our stories, Saturday, something else may have happened. You've got your marijuana story in the back burner, no pun intended, but that was pretty good. And then you've got, the news story that you want, and you've knocked out 2 of the 3 stories that we have to, present. So Josh, if you could reiterate your first idea about public schools, education, and then if you have any other ones that you want to share, I'll put them in what I'm writing up right now.
The one other thing I was looking at is the building of a wall down along the Mexican
That's
coast
right.
and how that may be a political aspect. But besides that, I was really looking at moving forward with the public education topic because I think it's got more of an impact that may be geared towards the demographics of the audience, as
Okay.
there may be several different impacts on people that have younger kids that are in the public school system, in the K through 12 system,
Okay.
or going into the system.
Gotcha. I'm writing it down right now. All right. And then let me see. And I'm summarizing, guys. So like I've got a header that says, well, shoot, this is technology. Why read that? Who wants to hear me? So I'm putting it in here. Ugh, that's ugly. I wish we had to put some spaces in there. My fault. You see where it says Team 2 budget meeting? That's where I started. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
sorry.
I see it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll, add some more
some more
stuff at the bottom, say, how we effectively used our time. We discussed and submitted, ideas and that kind of thing. But I think, honestly, Sarah, I think you're above or ahead of the game because you got 3 or 4 ideas at least. And that happens when you're an avid reader and thinker. And based on what you do for a living, what you just told us, you got all kinds of stuff going on up here. You know what I'm saying? That you could regurgitate on paper and have some great stories. And then Josh and I think traditionally, once we get in the groove of writing, we'll see some things that's going to jump out on us as well, to contribute to that. So I'll finish this summary and I'll submit it to you guys before I post it for your approval. And then addendums, because, I don't want it to look like it's just me writing stuff down. You guys make sure you reply. If you got, oh, yeah, we talked about, and here's my notes. And, you can give a ditto if you want to or something like that. That way we all at least collaborated and participated and have something on there. So
I think we're definitely a little bit over our time limit of an hour. Go.
Yeah. Hey.
Hey.
Go.
I would just say, yeah, we can wrap it up. Don't limit or ideas. Anything. It looks like anything in my opinion. And national news is a broad subject. You know what I'm saying? International news, you can't be more broad. You can't just relegate that to the Ashford University in San Diego stuff. I think that just applies to local news stuff. So when you talk about local news, you may have to be a little careful, but any subject, is in bounds as far as I'm concerned, if that answers that question you had earlier. So
yeah,
I'll summarize this stuff. When do we meet again? What our deadlines? I want to make sure we hit our deadlines as far as, so if I'm understanding right, we need to submit our stories by Saturday, but of course, maybe we need to meet again, Thursday or Friday.
That is something I was kind of wondering about too. Maybe as we start making some headway on the stories, maybe having some kind of communication at another point later in the week just to reconnect and see where things are going for each of the individual stories.
And it doesn't
necessarily maybe Friday. I mean, it's up to you guys. I'm available, so whenever you guys need to meet, we can meet. I mean, maybe Friday we get together same time and we just say, hey, I've got my paper is going good. This is the subject I went with. Or if we are having struggles, we can say, oh, well, I didn't really like where I was going on this, so I changed it to this.
That's
Either
cool.
Thursday or
I know
Friday.
that we have something to do on Thursday of every week and Monday of every week.
Yeah.
So if you guys wanted to even meet on a Thursday, because here's my thinking. Mondays and Thursdays are kind of dedicated school time for all of us. We're outside of our so-called dedicated school time by meeting last night and tonight, right? And even on Sundays, which, you know, hey, that's part of the job, part for the course. But if, you know, a lot of us have to kind of maintain our family structure. And with respect to, you know, you having to work from home and being surrounded by your kids all day, that's a difficult task. So let's meet on our school night when stuff is like Thursday night. You know what I'm saying? And then that way you guys we already got to do something on a Saturday. You know what I'm saying? So we could have our submission. We meet on Thursday, get our stuff tightened up. And then by Saturday, we know what the deadline is and we submit that because we're going to have to meet again on Monday. At least you got your Friday night with your family. You know, you don't have to see my ugly mug on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday or Monday.
We only need to do a video once a week, and I think
that's cool.
I think that our video. I don't know if you agree with this, but I would much rather meet on Tuesdays for our video. I would like to meet on Tuesday so that we can get our ideas going, because like I said, it takes me a really long time to get stuff going, and I think that then by Thursday, you know, we'll have already posted this and we'll have a good discussion going in there, and then that's one discussion board down. And then I did today's discussion board for Thursday already today, and it was really easy. So I think that our discussion boards aren't going to be very intricate. Now we can either decide on the week, if we're having a lot of trouble, if we want to video chat again. We don't have to record it. We can do it through Hangout like we did earlier.
Yeah.
And then if we are doing really good and we're all like on track, we don't have to meet again at all. I mean, we can either just submit everything on Saturday, send each other a message via phone and say, hey, I submitted, I put my stuff on Google Docs. We'll decide who's editing who's in the meeting on Tuesday. Like we should have done that today probably. And then we, on Monday, I will just make sure that, you know, I submit through Google Docs the final thing, and then you guys look at it and see what it looks like, and then we'll just say, oh, yay, good, thumbs up, send it, and then we'll submit it. I mean, that's my thought. So if you don't agree with something like that, we can change it. It doesn't matter. You know, and we could do it this week, and then next week, if it doesn't work, we can change it and do it completely different. So it's really, I'm open to change and however you guys want to do things.
I don't think she wants to see us, Joshua. So yeah, goodbye, Sarah. Okay. No, that's fine. Because we normally wouldn't be doing video stuff anyway in our other classes, and that's fine. So yeah, let's just, I guess where we are is just get our stories, and I want to make sure we finalize what we're doing before we hang up. We're going to submit our stories. We won't meet again video wise until next Tuesday at 6. Unless, you know, we are having some kind of issue where we think we need to collaborate and meet. And we'll meet once a week, Tuesdays at 6. And then we'll definitely continue. Like, I have unlimited text messaging, so you guys can feel free to reach out to me that way, or even call me, or whatever you feel like you want to do. I'm an open book. But we're going to get our stories together. We're going to submit them to you no later than, I guess, Friday. Saturday is the deadline, right? Yeah. And then we got to use the template to submit those stories. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's what we're supposed to do. Actually, submit our stories to be edited, and then at that point, I think we're supposed to convert everything on into the template to be submitted as an entire publication, where each of our stories are all put into that template together to be
Okay.
final piece.
All right. So sorry, I forgot that I was muted, but I'm having a lot of feedback from my end because my kids are running around and they're crazy. So, yeah, Josh, you're right. So everything has to be turned into Google Docs on Saturday. And then we have Sunday to edit them and turn them back into Google Docs. Then on Monday, they have to be put in the template and turned in by midnight.
Yep.
So as long as we're all just meeting the deadlines, I don't think that it's going to be an issue whatsoever. Do you guys care, like, who do you want, like Cliff, you can edit mine, or Josh, you can edit mine and I can edit Josh? I don't care.
Yeah.
We all have to edit someone, so everyone's is getting edited.
I'll make the calls.
Yeah.
I'll edit yours, Sarah.
Okay.
All I'm doing is really repeating what you're saying. I'll edit yours, Sarah. Joshua, you can edit mine, and Sarah, you can edit Joshua's.
Okay.
Okay.
And then Cliff or Josh to edit Cliff's. Okay. All right. So I think we're good to go then. So as long as we're not having any major issues whatsoever, we can meet back on Tuesday. Like we said, if not, just text. Just, put in that, text messaging, whatever group message, and we'll, set up a time to meet again. We have to.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool beans.
All right. Stop the record button.
All right.
Stop.
I'm stopping.